silver screen. Kevin and Tom and Joe know all there is to know, from masterpieces to deep fried tacos. And if the movie sucks, you might hear them say, there's no telling where the guys will take you. Get ready for a spoiler. Won't say it twice, cause we already warned you. Better watch out, it's gonna ruin the plot. Real spoilers. Real spoilers. Real spoilers.
Broadcasting from the lush but not lavish studios located in the basement of the O'Keefe Institute for Advanced Film Snarkitude, this is Real Spoilers, episode 757, Gran Machismo.
Oh.
What?
Joe's not here. We would get a Razor Ramon. There's a whole thing. Never mind. Go on. Continue.
Is that a wrestling thing?
Yeah.
Oh.
He was all about the machismo.
Oh. I did not know that I had made a wrestling reference.
You did, and you didn't even know it.
Yeah. Sorry.
Well, there's your one.
There, that's one out of every 757 episodes, apparently. So I will see you guys in episode 1502.
Oh, geez. Carry the one.
I don't know. 12?
New math.
Yeah. So this will be easy. Let's go around the table and everybody can introduce themselves.
This is Kevin.
This is Tom. Joe's out. He's on a family vacation.
Making salsa.
Making salsa? No, he notified us in advance, so that's okay. So it's just the two of us.
Just the two of us.
We'll have to pay for it.
Oh, sorry. I'll do the Will Smith version.
Well, I think you still have to pay for that.
Oh.
You just have to pay somebody different.
Oh,
yeah. So we were gonna do something else. What were we gonna do?
What were we gonna do? Well, that horror
we were
movie.
we were gonna do Equalizer.
Oh,
and
right.
then there was no way to see it. I was in New York this week because my son went off to college, and
had to go see Broadway instead of seeing the new Denzel
yeah. So
movie,
I saw MJ, and
how was it?
It was okay.
Yeah,
obviously the songs are great,
sure,
and the performances are great. Like
that's good. Did he sound?
Oh my God, totally
like, okay.
sounded like Michael Jackson. You know what I mean? And had the dance moves down, and honestly, the highlight of the show, there's like a little kid who plays Michael Jackson as a little kid, and that was crazy.
Do they do like flashbacks to Jackson 5?
Yeah, because they kind of tell his life story, except for they mention it obliquely. It's still just hard to I feel like I can separate it enough to where if you hear a Michael Jackson song that you like, that you're still like, that's a good song, right?
It's just been so weird since that documentary.
Yeah, but to watch a whole thing that's about him is a big ask. So
yeah,
but it is very, very well done.
Okay,
but it's
just weird. Yeah,
it's a little weird. So, But anyway, so we were up there visiting my son who goes to school in Connecticut. So we stayed in New York, and he took the train up, and so that was nerve-wracking.
Exciting
to put him on a train by himself.
Yeah,
he's like some kids you feel like they've got it,
sure.
right? And you're he's not one of those kids. So it's but I keep telling my wife, I'm like, look, the only way he's going to get there is to just okay, maybe he'll miss his stop and he'll have to take a $50 Uber ride. I don't know. And maybe that will finally teach him to pay attention in a different way. I'm
gotta learn sometime.
Right. I'm this is what fly, little birdie. So
right. You can't be there with him. So, he'll figure it out. He's a smart kid and a good kid. So.
Yeah. I mean, sometimes, not having that safety net is the best course of action. So anyway, so what were we talking about?
Tough love. You're one. I know that you're just saying if you miss your stop, I'm not sending you any money. You're gonna have to sleep on the curb.
Gonna have to wash dishes.
Yeah.
In the back of the Amtrak train car.
There you go.
I don't know. So shameless plugs. Let's do those. Don't forget we're available on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, Google, iHeart, TuneIn, wherever you find a podcast. You can find us while you're there. Be sure and follow us so you never miss an episode. Maybe leave us a review.
We have a new one.
Oh, goodness.
Yes. Would you like me to read it?
Well, yeah, was what the dramatic pause
This is called
for.
Filling Time because it's not pulled up.
Oh.
Drag it out.
No, I would not like to hear it.
Well, that's too bad.
Give me 2 good reasons why I should want to hear this
You know
review.
what? 1, it's already pulled up, and 2, it's very nice.
Okay.
It's called Keep Up the Great Work, 5 stars. Found your podcast a while back after Kevin guest hosted on another podcast, and after listening to one show, I subscribed. I look forward to hearing, now sometimes watching YouTube, and what you guys have to say on the new releases each week. Love that you guys don't pull punches and both break down movies as well as entertain along the way. I look forward to your new shows every week, and I'm glad you hit every type of movie. Keep up the great work. That is by Matthew Dunn, 21.
Well, thank you, Matthew Dunn, 21.
Yes.
We look forward to you changing that when you turn 22.
Every year.
Or maybe he was born in 21, and that was written by a 2-year-old, which would be...
Oh, you were saying 2021. I was thinking 1921.
Oh, or 102-year-old. Either way, it's impressive. It's impressive that a 2-year-old could write like that. It's impressive that a 102-year-old can work an iPhone and still go to the movies once a week. Or as he would call them, the picture shows.
The talkies.
The talkies. But for real, thank you. But if you like the show enough to leave that review, us talking about you like this is probably exactly what you were hoping for. It's a dream come true from Matthew Dunn, 21.
Your life's work.
Yes.
You'll have to find new goals to achieve.
Add that to your LinkedIn.
Go review Circle of Wizards.
So, shameless plugs. Also, don't forget we have a Facebook page, facebook.com/real spoilers. While you're there, like the page, join the group. It's called the League of Show Shares because we're hoping you'll share an episode. People who were kind enough to share an episode last week include Tom Dowdy, Travis Tewitt, Ralph Tribble, Tammy Lynn Powers Betts, Jason McLean, Chris Valls, Glenn Cougar, Melon Brewer, Julianne Jordan, Jeff Michael, Chris Magic Man, Gabriel Lugo, Dissect That Film, Taylor Ward, Christopher Rex, Edit Photo Gamer, Mike and Oscar, Invasion of the Remake, Batman Rye Guy, Spoiler Piece Theater, We Geek Girls, that's a new one. Hello, girls. You can call them girls because they called themselves girls.
Oh, that's right
If
there in the name.
If it was We Geek Women and I said, hello, girls,
That wouldn't be right.
that would be offensive.
Yeah.
I know these things because I am a feminist.
There you go.
So,
Perfect.
Where was I at? Oh, yeah, on the ladies. Feeling film, Ryan
Why aren't
Terry.
their names there next week? That's weird.
Yeah, one and done. It's not uncommon for me. Feeling film, Ryan Terry, Nostalgia Cast, Ronnie Castle, In Session Film, Binge Movies, The Film Bee, Geek to Me Radio, and Matt Neglia. So thank you very much for sharing an episode. We greatly appreciate it. Don't forget we also have a YouTube channel where you can watch us in color and
leave comments.
And leave comments.
Like
Oh, dear
Matthew
God.
Dunnigan 734, who I'm going to put on my detective hat, my monocle, and my Sherlock Holmes pipe.
Yes.
I'm going to say that's the same person as Matt.
You put on a pipe?
No, I'll put on my monocle and smoke my...
Oh, you said you were
Sherlock
going to
Holmes
put on your monocle and a pipe. I was like, how do you put on a pipe?
Well, I'll show you, Tom.
I
Right
was
here.
a little worried where it's being put.
That's for Real Spoilers After Dark. It's
Ooh.
a different show. So I'm guessing that's the same person. So thank you again for subscribing on YouTube. He just had a fun comment on the Blue Beetle episode. He said, "How can you use that photo of Tom? It looks like a bad Photoshop." It is a bad Photoshop.
What?
I photoshopped it.
I don't know what you did.
I put your clip out photo, cut out the background, and put you in the Shining Hotel.
What?
Like with the carpet in the background, because we weren't, our video didn't work.
Oh, our video. I didn't know
Remember?
our video didn't work. I don't remember that.
Yeah, because the thing didn't record, so I had to have you send me your audio, remember?
Okay.
So I had
you
to...
said send me the audio. It never clicked for me that then the video didn't
Oh,
work.
right.
Yeah, okay.
So I had to scramble for something to put on YouTube, and I
Okay.
cut out your clip out background, the white background
Right.
of your headshot, and put
Yeah.
you with the shining carpet in the background. And then he said, Kevin looks like it's a family photo headshot. It was.
Yeah.
And Joe looks like he's in court trying not to laugh. Just like a picture of Joe in a suit. And
Yeah.
he said, overall, love your guys' takes. Keep up the great work.
If Joe was in a suit, he was probably in court. It's the only reason he would wear one.
And Joe did comment and say, I'm always trying not to laugh.
It's because I'm so funny.
Yes.
Yeah.
And anyway, so thank you very much, Matthew Dunnigan, who may or may not be the same person
Yes.
as our reviewer.
And finally, don't forget we have a Patreon, patreon.com/real spoilers, where for $5 a month, you get all sorts of bonus content. We like you extra, and you get to see where Kevin puts that pipe.
There you go.
So there's all that. Let's dig in, shall we?
So now you went through and played the 7 Gran Turismo games, right?
If
To
this
prepare?
movie didn't tell me it was based on a video game, I would have no idea.
Well, don't worry. They tell you.
Oh, do they ever?
Okay, so this is going to be interesting because I've been waiting. I haven't talked to you about this movie yet. I want to hear, because you have someone that I grew up playing Gran Turismo on PlayStation 1, the very first game.
I don't mean to be pedantic, but I'm pretty sure it's pronounced PlayStation.
Yeah. Wow, that's actually good that you know the little intro thing. No, but so I played on the original PlayStation. I've played almost every version. I actually haven't played the PS5.
I'm sorry, you played on the what?
I'm sorry, what?
You played on the which console?
The PlayStation.
There you go.
I played on PS1, PS2, PS3. I don't know. I think they skipped PS4, which was very weird to have a whole 8 years of console without a Gran Turismo there the whole time. So they came out with this.
It was a dark time in America's history.
It was. I know you were losing sleep over it.
It's a sad, sad chapter.
So there's one on PS5 I just have not played yet. But anyway, so I've played at least 6 of these things, and I grew up playing them, so I'm familiar with what they are and how they operate. And it was interesting to see how they use the game mechanics in the movie. But also, to me, I started off the movie going, man, this feels like a commercial. And I just want to hear from someone who didn't play the games and wasn't familiar. So all this was new information, how that appeared to you. Because the beginning of the movie is like, the creator of Gran Turismo created the ultimate driving simulator. But I'm like, dude, we're at the movie. And
I was like, I don't know. I mean, this is a PG-13 movie. I don't think you're allowed to suck your own.
Like, it was
But here we are.
Like, I mean, I get it, and I'm not saying the game's bad. The game is very good. It's very popular. But, like, the movie opens like it's a commercial for Gran Turismo. I'm like, we're at the movie about this. Like, you don't have to.
The opening of the film. All other driving games are dog.
Yeah, precisely. I mean, that is essentially what they're saying. So anyway, I don't know if that was like
don't talk like that about pole position.
I don't know if that was a contractual like obviously Sony Studios or Sony whatever they're called, like their division is producing the movie. They've got the Last of Us TV show. They did the Uncharted movie with Tom Holland. So they've been on a roll making some money with these movies, and they're obviously very involved.
And the quickest way to know if you're watching a Sony movie is people actually use Sony phones.
Oh,
it's the only time I ever remember that they exist.
Yeah.
I'm like, what is that weird thing he's holding? That's not an iPhone. And then it's like, oh, yeah, Sony makes phones. And then, oh, yeah, this is a Sony movie.
And then also, they're like buying people MP3 players that no one's ever seen in their life. Like well, you make a standalone MP3
players at all.
Right. But
now the big question is, wait, do the Sony smartphones not play music?
You have to buy an MP3 player. Like, why not buy them a phone that does it too? But
so you know what I think that's about?
What's that?
I think, because this is a true story, and from what I can gather, it's fairly accurate. I think it's because there's a time jump. Like, this movie really is taking place in, like, 2003.
But...
And so...
No, but you know what, though? But this is the strange thing. They have him playing Gran Turismo on PS5.
Right. So the movie is set in the present day. But the story... It's based on...
So if he got the guy an MP3 player in 2000, they want to keep that little thing as part of the story.
Like, it's a thing he did for this guy.
Because I find this strange that the PS5 just came out a couple years ago, and this is based on a true story from not a couple years ago.
Right.
And so they put it in modern time to sell PS5s and Gran Turismo 7s.
Right.
And so it was a little odd with the time thing, because I'm like, well, either set it in the time, or now you're telling a true story in present day. I don't know. That just... usually when you tell a true story, you put it in the time period, and this is odd.
But I guess you could also just take it as like, I guess this guy didn't even use a smartphone. I don't think we ever really saw him with a smartphone.
He didn't seem like a smartphone type, no,
because he was still rocking a Walkman because he has to be quirky and so like he bought him that because
And this isn't a huge deal. I just thought it was funny that it's like. The product placement was a Sony MP3 player.
I don't think that anybody else left making them.
But talking about technology, it's just very funny to put we've got that, and put all the Sony stuff in there. And it's like, who has that? I've never seen one. I've seen more people with Zunes than Sony MP3 players. Like, people haven't needed an MP3 player since iPods and iPhones came out.
Right.
So it's like the time gap of people buying MP3 players. Anyway, so the movie starts out like that, and I think from a movie standpoint, unless you really think people don't know anything about this, that, oh, it's based on, I mean, they're going to show you the kid playing the game. You're going to learn pretty quickly.
Right.
I think as a storytelling and a film thing, I thought that was a really bad way to start the movie.
So as someone who doesn't really play video games,
Yeah.
doesn't care about auto racing, and doesn't really care about any of this, I like it. That part actually didn't bother me, and the reason it didn't bother me is because I didn't realize that Gran Turismo was supposed to be this super in-depth racing simulator.
Okay.
I just thought it was another car driving game, one
I
of
see.
many. Like, I didn't realize that it did anything different than the aforementioned pole position.
Well, there you go.
Yeah.
So then it was good maybe to explain what it is, because for listeners that have never played the games or haven't seen the movie and don't understand, the Gran Turismo is very in depth with what you can tweak. You can take your car apart and you put different tires, different brakes, different flywheel, racing flywheel, different clutch, different. You really do take apart every part of the car, and
like, if I had known that about the game, I promise you, I would never play it.
Yeah,
that sounds awful.
Well, so here's the
like
difference.
None of that sound. I know that clearly it's a popular game, right?
Yeah,
and I know that there are people out there who would love that sort of thing. There are car guys out there that would be their jam. For me,
for a non-car guy,
I don't even change my own wipers.
Right,
that's what I got a wife for. And I'm like, I'm not, I'm like, and that's fun. Yeah, you're paying someone for that.
Which is fine, because you know what, there are a trillion other car
absolutely.
Games. So they're, these are older games, but through the years you have your Daytona USA, your Cruisin' USA, and Cruisin' Exotica, which is not a porn pair.
Oh, that's a shame. I was like, wait a second, I might be turning around on this whole
Cruisin' Erotica is the pair. Yeah.
Well, you got to really be concerned too if you think about the Al Pacino movie Cruisin'.
Right.
Now it's a whole different thing, right? that pole position means it's entirely different.
So there are all these games that are very arcadey. I mean, they are literally arcade games, and they've made home ports to the console. So Gran Turismo is a simulator, which means, in Daytona USA, you just turn the wheel to the left or the joystick to the left, and you can whip around corners at 200 miles an hour.
An arcade doesn't have time for you to be changing your brakes.
Right.
Like, they got to churn.
They love the quarters, but yeah. So, but in Gran Turismo, if you're going 200 miles per hour around a corner and you just go to the left, you hit the wall or you flip over, or it's realistic, right? And so this game is really.
Does it handle like a car?
Yeah, I mean,
because that's all, I will say, whenever I've played car driving games, I'm really bad at them.
Yeah.
And I don't feel like I'm really bad at driving. Like, I'm still alive.
Right.
I haven't killed anyone. Not, But
at high speeds, handling a car would be very different.
Yeah.
But
whenever I play those games, I'm like, this doesn't feel like a car at all, right? Like, and so I just chalked it up to where it's like, well, I probably shouldn't get good at this, because then I'll get in the car and I'll feel weird. And so. So I was just...
so it feels more like driving a car, because when you're playing, just again, like if you're playing Cruisin' at at the movie theater arcade or Daytona USA, and you turn to the left, your car just like goes left. Like, you can go 200 miles an hour and it just goes across the screen. Like, it's very, like, you hardly press it and your car goes across the screen, right?
Yeah,
sensitive.
it's just very sensitive.
So Gran Turismo is more realistic with the way you do things, but it isn't arcade, right? So there's arcade and there's simulator. And so the arcade games are very fun, but for driving enthusiasts, that's not how a car handles.
Right.
So what Gran Turismo does is you not only take apart your car, upgrade it, do all this stuff, but when you're on the track, you have those lines. And what they show in the movie, I thought was very clever, how in like the real life action of him racing the cars, they would put the red lines and the green lines and the yellow lines. So it tells you how to take the turn.
Okay.
And as you accelerate or decelerate, the line will turn from red to yellow to green. Like, in real time, it changes, because if you take the turn at 200 miles an hour,
it's like a tutorial.
Yeah, it may be bad to take the turn like that. And you
sometimes you're going into a turn and you want to speed up,
right?
Like, it makes you cling,
or inside or outside, or
but it's counterintuitive. Like, you're like,
right?
And you really got to, work yourself into the mindset of like, no, this is not suicide.
Right.
Like, I should speed up right now. And so, so is there a setting in the game that you could turn that off?
Exactly.
Like, if you get really good now, like
these world champions,
like the expert level on Rock Band.
Right. So people can turn those off because they don't want to see those lines. But as you're learning, and it is standard, like, they will turn on, and that's how, like, I didn't know how to take those turns when I first started playing the games.
Right.
I would always want to go on the inside because I was like, well, if I turn on the inside and I can't like turn tight enough, I'll go to the outside. Like
it gives you
intuitively
you feel like it gives you margin for error,
right? But that's not how it is. You take the turn wide and go into, so there's that whole thing. So the movie does a great job of representing that visually.
One of my complaints is they don't do it enough.
Yeah,
like because like when in an early scene where he's like the cops are chasing him, and he like gets away from it, and it's like cop avoidance achievement unlocked.
I didn't like that because there's no cops in Gran Turismo, and there's no mode like that. So that was so unreal. I get what they were doing, like putting him in a video game, and I think taking the turns and stuff was cool. But when they made up achievements and cop avoidance,
I didn't know that wasn't a thing. I was wondering why there were cops at a race car track.
Grand Theft Auto would do that
for sure,
but Gran Turismo is a track game.
But I thought there would be more of that. And what was weird is when he had other achievements, like when he finally wins a race to get his racing license. I thought we'd get another one, and we didn't. Like they never did it again, and so
it does it one time, and it's not
really part of the game.
So I didn't like them making up.
No, I get that.
For someone for 20 years that's seen the Gran Turismo games, to see like cop avoidance achievement, I don't know. It was weird. I didn't like it. I get that he lives in video games, but he really just lives in this game,
right?
And that game doesn't have that, so I wasn't a huge fan. And if they were going to do it more, like you said, like make it a thing, like lean into it and do it more. So. I love Scott Pilgrim, and that game is based on a manga, and it's very video game and out there with all the art style, and it's cool that things pop up on the screen and achievements and levels, and they do it the whole movie.
But it's not based on a specific game, so they can kind of they can crib from anything.
True, but the style, it's consistent at least, right? So like they play a video game. There's all that stuff. So anyway. I did think tonally it was a little weird like that. But overall, I really liked it. I liked how they showed him in the game when he first starts out. So there's this kid, and the character names, they escape me. So I'm going to look them up here real quick.
Does it matter?
Probably not, but just for the ease of talking about it, instead of going, him, he did this. So Jan Mardenborough, now these are based on real people. So Jan is the main character, played by Archie Madekwe. Really, other than him, the two other main people in the movie are his like driving coach, Jack Salter, played by David Harbour, and then Danny Moore is someone working in marketing for Gran Turismo and trying to pitch Nissan about putting on this competition. So he's played by Orlando Bloom.
I believe it's pronounced Nissan.
Yeah,
God, that drove me crazy.
In my head, it's like saying Porsche. In my head, I'm like, I know it's pronounced like Nissan, just like that's the way. But like when I went to say it, I'm like, I can't say that.
No.
I
did think it was interesting that like later when you hear the TV people, they do have the American announcer saying Nissan.
Okay, because it's like that's what everyone says.
Yeah, well, at least apparently everyone here, everyone there says Nissan.
Yeah, but so either way, potato, right?
Yeah.
So those are your main characters, and obviously there's other people on his drive team. Damon Hansu plays the father, and there's a bunch of other random people in his life. But those are your main cast of characters. And so Jan is really deeply into this driving simulator, Gran Turismo, which he's playing on PS5. So again, it's a modern update. You're seeing like the most recent version of the game, which is a marketing thing. Again, this story didn't take place in the last couple of years, but he's playing on the newest system. It's a commercial for the game, but he's playing this nonstop. And his dad is a former soccer player, and he wants his younger brother is really into soccer, and Jan doesn't want anything to do with it. So his dad is, looking down on him playing these games all the time, and he's like, when are you going to grow up? And
you're wasting your time playing the video games.
Exactly. Like, doesn't he know if this is set in modern times? Like, there's people making millions of dollars in video games. But anyway, but I'm sure the real dad was, skeptical, because especially when it was taking place, I mean, what are you doing wasting your time on those games?
I mean, ultimately, I don't like when movies do this, because it's like, obviously the dad's wrong, but he's not wrong, right? Like it's a
99% of the time the dad is right.
Yes, like
we know because we're watching this movie,
right? Like it's a fluke, because part of what the dad was concerned about was like, it doesn't matter how good you are at video games. Racing cars is for the uber wealthy.
Right.
You don't have a path to that world. There's no way for you to get there from here.
Yeah.
And it's only because they decided to do this marketing stunt and find kids that were good at the game and put them behind the wheel of the car and see if they would kill themselves. like that's the only reason that there was no reason to think that anything like this would ever even occur. I mean, it's basically Willy Wonka, right?
Yeah, no, it does feel like that. I was thinking the same thing. And also, the dad, he doesn't understand that this is a simulator similar to you, right?
Right.
Like, it's just not, when you think about playing racing games, I mean, the dad probably played them in the arcade,
Right.
You don't think that you could go from playing an arcade game with a joystick, or even if you have a wheel, but to driving a car. There's no path that
Playing
takes
Call
you
of Duty
doesn't make you
don't make you no Navy SEAL,
right,
son.
exactly.
Yeah.
Like, what are you going to do when you get out there? So the dad is very right in his thoughts, and the dad is not a bad person.
Yeah.
And he's not played up to be a jerk. The dad is played up to be realistic, right? So like, we're not hating on him. Like, it's very normal,
because the dad's not even against chasing your dream. He's like, but soccer's the dream, right?
Yeah.
Like, he's like, you could go be a soccer player,
Right.
like maybe go do that, not but like playing video games.
And also, we didn't see a lot of the dad being like, I'm taking your driving wheel and breaking it over my knee, or like, he wasn't destructive. He wasn't like.
When you played the game, did you use a controller or the wheel?
A controller for the most part. Those wheels are really expensive.
Oh, are they?
They're like $400. They have force feedback and pedals and
Gotcha.
all that stuff.
So have you ever played on a wheel?
Yeah, I eventually got one for Xbox, which Gran Turismo is on Xbox, but with force feedback, and I've played with a wheel other racing games.
Does it feel like a car?
Yeah, it's cool. I mean, so the expensive ones, again, so they have like the feedback vibration, but they lock you in a way to where there's resistance.
Okay.
So when you're going faster and around a corner, you can't just even take the wheel and turn it all the way. Like, it feels like you're on the ground.
You.
Yeah, it fights you. Yeah. So it's really neat for people that have played these games. There's a series called Forza on Xbox, all the way from the original, Bill Gates and The Rock.
I believe it's pronounced Xbox.
So for that Microsoft system, there is Forza, there's Forza Motorsports, and there's Forza Horizon. And now Forza Horizon is the fun, I want to say arcadey, super fun. I have played Forza Horizon thousands of times more than Motorsports. Motorsports is the simulation. It's their answer to Gran Turismo.
Okay.
And it's not fun because I'm not looking for that in my racing games.
Yeah, that sounds boring.
Yeah,
I guess I didn't have the right brakes on my car.
Right.
Let me go.
Well,
let me
to
go
heads. I get it.
I get it.
To me, it's not fun.
Yeah,
if you're into that gives you if you can't. I mean, most people can't afford to just go buy a racing flywheel and go buy, and soup up their car, and especially with these supercars and these Porsches and Ferraris. So if you're into that, I totally get it. And I played Gran Turismo for a long, long time. But once Forza Horizon came out, I found that was so much more fun because it was a perfect combination of, you still get a little bit of realism, and they use real car brands and everything, but also you're going in the snow and through fields, and there's drift challenges, and you get points for running into things. And then they're like, here's a speed trial, go from point A to point B, and you have to reach 177 miles an hour. And it's so fun because there's all these challenges. There's ramps and there's things to collect and jump off. So the graphics look realistic, the cars look realistic. They still handle more realistic, but you're not on a track. You're out in the world, and you go to the different biomes. You go to the snow and the desert and all this stuff. So if you've not played it, if you have the Microsoft system that starts with an X, I won't name it because Tom will make me say it. But if you have that system and you haven't checked it out, those games are great. And I think on Xbox Game Pass, which is their subscription model, you get a lot of all their first party Microsoft games included for $10 or $15 a month. It's on there, and it's super fun. So anyway, that's what I got with the 360. I got the force feedback wheel, and it is really fun to have those. They're expensive, but I think I might have traded stuff in at Funko Land back in the day or something and got a deal.
Well,
on
I mean,
it.
that's like buying a whole other system.
Yeah,
game system.
Exactly. Games, especially back then, the 360 was only, I think, $300, and the steering wheels were $300, right?
Yeah.
Now game systems are $500, but back then $300 was the price, right? I mean, a lot of PlayStation 1 came out at $299, and then it eventually dropped to $199 and then $149 to compete with N64. So like back then they were even they got down to some really low prices,
right?
But the wheels, because of all the technology in them, they were $200 to $300.
Yeah.
So they've really improved them though. And again, that was a long time ago. I haven't played them recently. I'm sure the feedback and everything is like super realistic now. I mean, they've gotten better, but
yeah, that stuff has only gotten better.
Yeah. So anyway, so this kid is, he's got his head in the clouds. He's playing this driving simulator. He wants to drive cars, but he doesn't have the means to do it, like Tom said. And then out of the blue, it cuts to Japan, and Orlando Bloom is at Nissan because he's in Japan. So,
right.
He's at Nissan.
Yeah, we want to be culturally sensitive.
And he does a presentation to the people of the company, and he's saying that Gran Turismo is the ultimate simulator. Again, another commercial for the game. And they're looking at him like, you're insane. He basically says, we want to take sim drivers and we want to put them on the track and prove that Nissan's cars are the ultimate cars and that this game can teach you how to drive. It's never been done before. And it's pretty much that stereotypical pitch meeting thing, and he's leaving. He's like, they wait until he's like waiting to pick up his car from valet parking or whatever.
We've decided to do it.
We've agreed on it. We've approved it. Shake your hand. It's like, but was there a better way to tell him that than when he was about to leave? Anyway, it's just a weird thing in movies they do where it's he leaves dejected and the guy comes up and he's like, you left your folder, and by the way, we approved your multi-million-dollar experiment.
Just no one had the balls to tell you to your face.
Yeah, we all looked at you like you're crazy, and then you left, and in the 5 minutes we agreed, we got approval, we got the funding. Anyway, just a weird movie trope. But he's like, yes.
I didn't like this character.
Which one? Bloom?
Yeah. Because I felt like they didn't know what to do with him.
Is he the bad guy? Is
right.
He the good,
They because you could tell there's a moment in the script where I feel like he was supposed to become the guy who only cared about the success of this project even more than he cared about the health of the people or well-being of the people competing, right?
Or the morality of the ethics of it all. Like when we see him and you get where he's coming from, but also it's just not right when he's trying to say like, this guy won, but he only won by a couple thousandths of a second. Like, what does it really matter? And David Harbour's character is like, but he didn't win. Like, that's what racing is. Sometimes it comes down to a photo finish. Like, it doesn't. They don't go like, we'll give this guy the gold because his car looks fancy.
Well,
it's
and then there's also that moment when he kills a guy where he's kind of like, let's get back to it. So like
when Jan accidentally,
and so. Like, I really thought that there was going to be like a turn, and I almost feel like there's a version of the script where there is, and then
they said this is promoting Gran Turismo, like this guy is the marketing department of Gran Turismo. They can't be like he was a villain.
We're not going to do that.
Pump the brakes would be a good thing to say in this situation. But anyway, so they he gets the pitch. Jan is like. They show a little bit of his home life, not a ton, but the younger brother's like, hey, we're going to sneak out your window and go to the party. And Jan, he's like, no, I'm not doing that. And he's like, but the girl you like's going to be there. And so, of course, he's like, all right. He axe bombs his room like nothing else. Like, it's funny because the brother was in the room because they're going to sneak out. Then they don't show the brother, and they show Jan like spraying the axe body spray all over him. And I'm thinking like, and there's a little thing where the brother's like PU, but like where like the room's only so big, like that guy would be choking, but he was spraying it all over. But they sneak out, they go to a party. He talks to the girl who's leaving to go to college somewhere else. They have a little, cute moment, but nothing really happens. The cops show up, they all escape, and this is the scene Tom was talking about where Jan is the sober driver, and so they all are trying to drive away, but then the two of the kids are being stupid. They're handing beers out the window, passing them between moving cars. The car gets too close and clips the mirror. A cop sees it and then tries to pull him over. And then the two cars pull over together, one in front of the other. Jan's car's in the front, and he realizes the cop's like giving a ticket to the guy behind them. So he just takes off. And the guy gets in the car, drives out. I'm guessing the guys behind them were happy about that because they're like, oh, okay. But anyway, so he goes on a little car chase, and the camera system turns into the view. Again, this is a clever thing if you've played the games. So most racing games do this, but you got the cockpit view, you've got like one out, then you've got the really far away view where you can see the car. And so this does like the medium camera angle to where you're outside the car, but just barely above it. And it tracks them, kind of like Steadicam as they're driving around.
I feel like there wasn't enough video game stuff in this movie.
Okay.
Like, I feel like there should, like, I don't feel like racing scenes ever really pulled me in the way. Like,
I wonder if it's because you don't play the games though. Because to me, I thought they got too cutesy with some of the video game stuff. Because to me, there's a lot of video game stuff, and I think maybe if you don't.
I didn't like when they're pulling the car apart and putting it back together. I thought that was cheesy.
It's cheesy, but again,
it's funny. Like the video game stuff, I don't like. You do like, and the stuff that when they're not doing it, and I wish they were. You
isn't that funny?
Yeah,
I think that's just the difference of playing all the games, and so like you're looking for something else or not used to that. So the pulling apart thing. So throughout the film, when he's playing GT in his bedroom, they show him at the. It looks like a computer, but he's playing at the PlayStation, and then all of a sudden this CG representation of like a blueprint diagram of a car model goes over him, and it looks like he's in the car, and then he's playing the game, but you see him in the car. Like, I thought the visuals were really cool. And this movie's directed by Neil Blomkamp, who did
one good movie,
District 9, but then he did Elysium, he did Chappie. He was going to do an Alien movie, which I was really excited for. That got scrapped.
Yeah, even though I didn't like Elysium or Chappie, I was kind of like, I'm doing an Alien movie.
Because
okay.
District 9 was so good. I saw District 9 in the theater. I think I had to go to the Art House Theater to see it, and I loved it. I mean, I left that movie so excited for what that guy was going to do.
Right.
Because that movie was so good.
And now he's just trying to prove I can make a normal movie and not screw it up.
Yeah.
And he did.
Yeah, oh yeah.
I will never watch this again, but it was fine
it's
for
not
what
a
it
great
was.
movie, but I thought it was very entertaining.
Yeah.
It's a good story. So yeah, overall the movie is totally fine. And so hopefully he'll be able to do some, I would love for him to get creative again like he did with District 9. It's just Elysium and Chappie's weird. I like Chappie. It's weird for sure. I'm not going to doubt that. It's totally weird. But I would like to see more original things. Like this movie was very cookie cutter. This is your underdog story, whether it's a hockey movie.
Right.
It doesn't matter. Any sports movie. This is your underdog sports movie. Yeah. And it's a formula that they make them because it works, and true stories do happen. Kurt Warner's story, right?
Yeah.
Like he's working at a grocery store and becomes Super Bowl MVP.
Right.
Like it really happens, and it's an underdog story. People love them. So, no knock on him for telling this true story and telling it well. It's just I do want more District 9s and Chappies, if not exactly Chappie, but you know what I mean?
Right.
I want the creativity. I want the weird sci-fi stuff. So hopefully I'll get more shots at it. So he's playing at the computer. The car goes over him. And so during race scenes, they'll kind of do that in reverse, right? So he's actually in a car, but where we saw him in the bedroom, CGI car blueprint model over him, putting him in the race, they take him out of the race, detach the car in reverse, and then kind of show him like what it was like simulating this in the bedroom. I liked the representation of that. I like how it put us in his head and how he was able to cope with the real stuff and remember what it was like doing the simulation and the software. And I don't know. To me, that really worked. At first, when I saw it, I'm like, oh, this is a little... I get what you're saying. It is kind of cheesy, but also I think it was a cool way to get into his head because it's hard, I think, to represent, especially if you don't play games.
Right.
You know what I mean? What you're doing is you're seeing someone play a screen, and that's very hard to be exciting.
Yeah.
And so to see the mechanics of the car and what the game allows you to do and picking parts apart and everything, like I did think it was a neat representation because that's one of the number one things I think video game movies struggle with is how do you show people on the big screen playing a video game without making it boring, without just showing a video game? How do you put what the player is seeing? And so anyway, it is what it is. They get in trouble. The dad finds out he wrecks the car. He brings them he works at the train yard and they're coupling trains and stuff. And the dad is basically saying, you're wasting your life, blah, blah, blah. Jan gets mad. And it's interesting because like the dad isn't even like, he's a good guy, like we said. And he, Jan wrecked the car, took the blame, and then he allowed Jan to just walk away from him.
Right.
He's like,
and the dad's not like, go get a real job in the train yard. He's like, you're working in the train yard so you can see that it sucks.
Yeah.
And like go back to school and get a non-train yard job.
Yeah.
Because this is awful.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And then they get into an argument and Jan's like, I'm out of here because meanwhile his friend's texting him and his dad's like, what, do you got somewhere to be? The friend that works at like an internet cafe, but they do play the racing games there, he says, there's this new contest, and he tells him about the Gran Turismo Academy sponsored by Nissan, and the competition, they're going to take the best sim drivers, like the top 12, I think 10 or 12 sim drivers from around the world. They want someone from each country as to be represented, and so there's going to be this big championship, and you got to enter. Like, this is your chance to really drive cars. And so the thing's going down, of course, when he's at the train yard, and so he's able to walk away like pretty I thought it was going to be a big deal, but he just told his dad off and he just goes.
Right,
I'm like,
yeah.
oh, he got off pretty easy on that one. Okay. He gets there, he like last minute is like, I guess they take their shoes off. I've never played video games without my shoes on. He takes his shoes off to go in the racing thing. I don't know why. Like, I mean, driving a normal car, you're supposed to have your shoes on.
I think because he's playing in his bedroom, and like when you're sitting around the house, you don't have you don't sit around the house with your shoes on.
That makes sense. So he would have the same feel as when he's practicing, because it would make a difference. The pressure. Okay, cool. I thought it was a little funny. Like, take your shoes off before you play the racing game.
Right.
Okay.
Yeah.
Good call. So he competes, and again, it's video game in a movie. It's down to the wire. He's almost going to lose, and then he ends up winning. I can't remember, but he does the things.
But and like a split second photo finish,
right?
Blah blah blah.
Foreshadowing for things to come, certainly in the rest of the movie. So he gets into the academy. Meanwhile, Orlando Bloom is trying to enlist all these. Who's going to run this academy? We need a real race car driver. Well, real race car drivers don't exactly respect video gamers, right?
Nobody's going to walk away from a real established career to roll the dice on this group of ragtag ne'er-do-wells.
And also, you get it, right? Like, again, this is not like a bad guy thing, and I know they sometimes try to represent people being jerks, but you got to understand, these people are out there for their entire lives and careers, risking their lives in real cars.
Right.
And if you get a guy playing video games coming in,
it sounds like a dumb idea.
You're going to go like,
I have to assume that it was eventually deemed a dumb idea because I don't feel like they're still doing this, right? Like, this guy did it, and he still races professionally, but they're not still taking video game kids and putting them behind the wheels of cars, right?
Right. Not that I know of, and it's a crazy idea. Once they saw the risk of it, I think they're like, this is the one. Like, it worked out by the grace of God, just barely. People were hurt still.
I was going to say, by the grace of God. Well, I think there's a family of a dead guy who might feel a little differently.
Now, and
I'll never drive a Nissan again, I'll tell you that.
And we'll get into that. But
they're driving Nissans for free the rest of their lives,
right?
Depending on the settlement.
It worked out, based on a true story. But they're not doing it again because the risk, as everyone in the movie said, is too great. You're taking people that don't know what they're doing, and I get that they are wrongly downplaying the skill of these sim drivers, because throughout the movie, Jan is fighting with everyone saying, I've put more time into these cars than you have on the track driving them in real life, because he has access to every car, every track, every part. Even if you're a race car driver, to a certain extent, like, you get what you can afford or your team can afford.
And there's only so much time they're going to let you practice on the Le Mans track.
Absolutely. Yeah. Which is weird when they just, the next day, just let drivers drive their car onto the Le Mans track to look at their accident sign. That was a little weird, because I'm like, you can't do that.
Yeah.
Anyway, so the point being, like, I get both sides, but I do not think the racers, for all the, now there has to be a D-bag villain who's ultra mean and ultra terrible, and he's the villain, right? But for the people giving him guff, or were a little bit unsure of the idea, it's because it's a crazy idea, and they've put the time into it, so I totally get both sides. But to Jan's point, he's put so many thousands of hours, and the simulator is so good, as we've been told many times. It's a very good simulator. So Orlando Bloom's scratching.
Well, and I think something that if people don't play the games, I wouldn't have known this, but that the tracks they're racing on, they are replicating those tracks 100%. Within the game. So, like,
they're not going to Scooby-Doo fields,
right?
They're
so he's very intimately familiar with the courses he'll be racing at the professional level. So, I mean, you can. It's not a crazy argument.
Simulators in the military, right?
Yeah,
airplane simulators. When you become a pilot, flight simulators. Simulators have been used.
I would think that in today's world, there probably isn't a racer alive that isn't playing Gran Turismo,
right, or some kind of simulator,
just to familiarize themselves with the tracks.
Why would you not? And your time, money, like you said, access to these things, especially because these racers probably have a $50,000 rig where they're in a car with a seatbelt. Like they've got all the devices and the panels and the feedback. Like
they're doing it on different equipment,
but they're why would you not, right? So a simulator has been used for space and military, and simulators have been used for a long time, and there's no reason to think Jan using the simulator is not training him, because that's a lot of times how people are trained. So Orlando Bloom's scratching people off the list, and he gets to the very last guy, and he writes, NFW, no effing way, about David Harbour's character. So David Harbour was a race car driver. Like Jerry, he was a race car driver. Yeah. He washed out because we don't know. It's a mysterious. Yeah. We don't know why he hung it up, but he was a race car driver that never made it to the big times, but he had the shot. He was one of the best drivers, this legendary racer that hung it up, and no one really knows why, but he's now a mechanic.
Well, no, I feel like everybody knows why. They just don't
tell us
or the main character of this movie.
Fair. We're in the dark.
Who apparently Sony phones, not only do they not play MP3s,
they don't have Google.
They don't have Google. Yeah. Like, are you telling me this kid wouldn't just he was like, oh, that's his story to tell you. He wouldn't just be like, Google, boop, boop, boop. Yeah. Oh, you killed a dude driving.
They use Ask Crash Bandicoot. That's the website you have to go to. Ask Crash.
Yeah. And honestly, like, I didn't even need to Google it. I was like, well, clearly he killed a guy while he was driving.
Yeah, he was really good. Why would you quit?
Yeah. Like this.
So he doesn't know why. We don't know why. But anyway, he's working for a mechanic for, I don't even know. We're just going to call him Villain Race Cars, Inc. The bad guys of the story are
Racer Ass.
Yeah. So they're big, like the people with all the money have the racing team. It's like Ivan Drago, like they're the bad guys that are all about training, and they're hard on their kids, and they've got all the money and the resources. And when they get mad, they throw their helmets and stomp on them and break them, and they're just jerks. Right. They're rich d-bag people. And so he's working as a mechanic, and people are treating him poorly because he's an outsider that is washed up in their eyes, and he's just doing the mechanic stuff. So they go to a dinner one night, and we see a scene where the D-bag main racer kid on the team is taking a turn, and we see David Harbour notices he doesn't take it right. And at the dinner, when they're all celebrating, he's like, you should have pulled to the left or decelerated around the turn, whatever. He says something to him, and the guy is like, I didn't ask for advice from you, old man, or whatever, whatever. So they get into a conflict, and even though David Harbour thinks this whole plan is crazy, he's like, I'm going to show him. He's got that thing where, like, I'm not going to work for these a-holes. So he calls him up, says, I'll take the job reluctantly. And
I've done some research because I was curious how much of this is a true story.
Yeah.
I could find stuff, and I didn't admittedly dig all that hard.
Okay.
But I found lots of stuff about whether or not, like, the main guy, Jad, what is it?
Oh, Jan? The main,
Jan,
like,
there we go.
Yeah.
About his story. And from his vantage point, this seems fairly true.
I like when they show the photos at the end, and you're like, they recreated a lot of stuff.
Yeah, and the actor looks like him.
Yeah, they did a good job.
But I couldn't figure out if this guy's story is.
I admittedly myself, I haven't had a lot of time. I did not look up a lot about the true story, so I will have to leave.
He feels like a made-up character.
Yeah,
even the name feels like a made-up character.
Jack Salter.
Yeah.
Jack Slater's from Last Action Hero. Now, Jack Slater in this movie, that would be interesting. Yeah. So he gets him on the team. They show up to GT Academy. It's the thing with he's a real hard ass. Like, this guy is... he doesn't want to be.
He doesn't want to get anybody killed.
He doesn't. He's very skeptical, and rightfully so.
Right.
And he's tough on these kids. He's training them. They're one by one they all leave, right? So they're in real cars. They're all I wish they weren't all these white Nissans. Like, I wish they changed them up a little bit. Every car,
because it was hard to tell who was winning.
Yeah,
because the cars all look the same,
and they're these really awesome. I think it's a Nissan Skyline GTR,
but give them a different stripe or something,
a different color, right? Why can't they each have
them white with like a red stripe or a blue stripe?
And I don't know if that is because they didn't know what characters they wanted in each. Like, they filmed a whole bunch of stuff, and it may have been for ease of, like, we'll just show the white cars doing this stuff, right? And stunt drive, like, they didn't want to maybe coordinate it all. But anyway, they're all in these cars, and they're going around cones, and they're starting and stopping, and everyone's doing really well. But as people, like, they crash or they don't do something right, he's basically like, you're out, you're out, you're out. And there's a really close call that Jan has he actually has David Harbour in the car, and they're driving around the track, and they're racing with all the other kids. And there's this, I think his name is Matty. I don't know why I remember this character. The USA kid. He's cocky.
He's white.
No.
Nice, Kevin.
No, he's
nice.
he's cocky, but he's not a jerk. But he is a little. He's the Top Gun Maverick. He's that Glenn Powell character.
He looks like he would be one of the Franco brothers.
I seriously was like, did they want Dave Franco? I thought the exact same thing. He looks just like him. But he's cocky, but he's like the guy that's going to be a good guy later. You can tell it's that archetype, right?
Yeah.
Glenn Powell in Top Gun. He was cocky, but now he, saves.
But when the time is right, he will do the right thing.
Right. Yes. So this is like the number one guy, and he's going to win it all. And he's doing whatever he has to do. And Jan goes to overtake him, and he ends up like trying to close the gap and stop him from doing it. And so instead of putting on the brakes, like David Harbour's like, slow down, whatever. And he's like, I'm trying to, the brakes aren't working. And they crash into the barrels, and no one's injured, but like, they're going fast. It could have been really bad. And you're like, God, he's going to be out. And David Harbour's like, you can't do that. You have to either, if you're going to overtake someone, you either do it or you slow down with enough time. You don't change your mind while you're doing it. I don't remember the line, but that's not how you do it.
Gotta commit.
And he says, my brakes were glazed, which is a thing that I don't understand.
I don't know.
It's bad. I know it's bad, right? My guess is that means that they were like frozen, like they wouldn't work, and I don't know what glazing is, but
when brake pads are glazed, the brake pad should be replaced. Well, no. Glazing compromises and ruins the friction material. The calipers and hydraulic system should be examined for mechanical problems or failure. If glazing happens often, the driver will need to evaluate their driving style.
But no one says what glazing. I just have as a non-car guy, even though I've played these games, I don't remember Gran Turismo ever going, your brakes are glazed. Let's change them. So
the brakes have been heated to the point that the material within the brake pad hardens and smooths.
So that's what glaze. Okay, it's just like you glaze a ceramic thing. Like it's been heated up so hard that it's.
When they say you evaluate your driving style, I guess if it happens a lot, you're riding your brakes too much.
They're heating up and turning hard, so the discs won't go
won't
against
grip.
the pad. Yeah, exactly.
It's
okay. That's what I thought.
So if you're riding your brakes too hard, I think then you're a pussy.
Oh, there you go.
Is what they're saying. They're saying don't be a pussy. Or actually saying either be a pussy or don't be a pussy.
But don't be in the middle.
Don't be half a pussy.
Commit.
Yeah. Which I think that's a hate crime.
Is it?
Telling someone not to be half a pussy. You're allowed to be that now.
Oh.
Yeah.
All right, so
Kevin's like, note to self, remove that in editing.
Yes, I will look for. Why did I freeze for 5 seconds there? Oh, Tom is saying something I have to remove. So to show you, like, this is another movie language of saying, like, Jan is really good because even though he's only ran the simulator, and also Gran Turismo is very good because Jan knows his brakes were glazed,
right?
And it wasn't maybe someone else was. I don't know if they all drive the same car, unclear. But the point is, the car had a mechanical failure. Jan blames it on the car, and David Harbour's like, nice try.
Like you would even know what glazed brakes feel like.
You play video games. And again, this is another thing to show you, like, Gran Turismo is the real deal. Like, I don't know if it does this, but they're telling you, like, even people playing the game.
And I would get, even if you were willing to accept the idea of a simulator, I'd be like, well, how do you even get the feel of glazed brakes in a controller?
I'm guessing what it means. And actually the parts, I think, do wear out and you have to change them in some modes. I could be wrong, but I've played games like this. So if your car isn't handling well, you can check it and it will tell you like the percentage that you've used of the brakes and you need to change them. So in a big race, actually, you do have to pit, I think, and change those things. So
gotcha.
That's how he knew. So to show you that Jan is really good, he's like, no, I know this. Like, you need to trust me. I know what I'm talking about. Jack says, you're out. If the brakes aren't glazed, you're out, basically. Like, you better hope that you're
like,
know what you're talking about.
If you're right, then I'll accept this. If not, then yeah.
But you're on thin ice either way. So he checks him out. The mechanic drives the car. He comes back and he's like, kid was right. They were glazed. And so, and he has like not quite a smile because, I mean, this character is very much not a fun-loving guy, And I think,
he does have a moment of like, okay, well, this kid actually knew a thing.
Which is like, I guess a video game of this caliber can do something. And I have to say, I think David Harbour gives an excellent performance in this movie. I think he's very good. Is this character. I don't know. What I think is that to have a video game movie like this, and I know this is a real story with video games around it, but in general, it's just hard to have a video game movie and take it seriously, the subject matter, and it just.
I will admit, when I saw the trailer for this movie, and then they're like, "Oh, we're taking the kids to play the video games," and then at the end they're like, "Based on a true story," I was just like, "Oh, like that's not a true story." Like I was completely dismissive of that as a notion.
Sure.
Or I thought it was going to be one of those things where like there was one guy that became a race car driver that in an interview one time said like, "I play Gran Turismo." Based on a true story.
Right, exactly.
Like I thought it was going to be that. I didn't realize
the kid really did
how much of this appears to be a true story.
I mean, I think the actors do a good job. I think David Harbour's the standout. I think if you had an actor of a lesser caliber, like we said before, like if you don't put David Harbour in this movie, I think it's going to lose something that makes it feel really grounded, and he gives a performance that really makes you, it's relatable. It's like you
he is not phoning it in.
No, he's the voice of reason.
Yeah.
He's like, saying things that even though you want the main character to succeed, you're like, yeah, this guy like knows what he's talking about. It comes down to the final race. There's like 3 people left. It's the last day. They have this big race, and there's a photo finish. This is what we talked about earlier, where it's Maddie from the U.S. and
not Dave Franco,
and Jan.
And Jan Hammer.
And it's a photo finish, 1/1000th of a second. I mean, it's right there. And they have to go to the replay, and David Harbour's playing it back, play it back. And
luckily,
he's like,
Sony cameras
oh, yes, of course,
have high frame rates.
Super high def, high frame rate.
So.
Well, I'm sure they do use some really good cameras in this situation. But he's like, Jan did it. And then before they announce it, Orlando Bloom's like, wait. Are you sure this is what we want? And David Harbour's looking at him. And again, like his acting chops. I mean, I really like this performance. He's looking at him like puzzled. He's like, what do you mean he won? And then he's like, yeah, but I won that. Like Maddie's so good on the mic. And this is this is about the marketing.
And like, I don't think Orlando Bloom's character is wrong.
I mean,
you know what I mean?
I get what he is saying.
Yeah, he's like, the difference is negligible. And this kid, the other kid is going to be better in interviews selling the concept and the product.
This whole thing is a marketing campaign. Right. So like I get where he's coming from, but fair is fair, and Jan won.
Yeah.
And in racing, because Orlando Bloom is in the marketing department of a video game, right?
Right.
So like he's doing his marketing thing, but he's not on the track. He's not racing cars. And in that world, and I mean, I'm not super into it, but I can at least understand. I watch a lot of Cars, right? Cars plays a lot at my house. I understand. Lightning McQueen does that photo finish at the end. I learned. It's very good stuff for learning about this.
But, you could also make the argument that, like, Jan kind of had a good day at the right moment in time. Overall, the other guy had been better.
But but the day of the race, when it comes down to
day in, day out, the other guy had been better, and he beats him by a hair in this one particular moment in time. Like I know we're supposed to be rooting for Jan, but like I'm not convinced that was even necessarily the right choice, because the other guy had day in, day out been the better driver.
Get what you're saying, but you hire David Harbour.
You set up a system of metrics, and this is what we're going to go with,
right?
Yeah,
and so if that's what they're going with, he's not going to lie, especially when he's running the thing, and he's just looking at him like, like he's Hellboy. He's looking at him like I'm.
And I will also say they would have to go lie.
Yeah.
Right. Like that would, and I think we all know, if there's one thing corporate America doesn't do, it's lie.
Never.
To
Absolutely
people.
not. Yeah. This isn't a movie thing. They would never.
But there's a big difference between saying that, like, we know you won, but overall we're going to give it to this other guy because but
imagine the PR nightmare of that.
But they would have to actually go down there and lie about who actually won.
Yeah, and then you'd have a whole room of people that saw the replay,
saw who really won. Yeah,
it would be a scandal. I mean, Orlando Bloom would have to think about this for 5 seconds before he'd realize it won't work. He can't. Once everyone's pushing back, it's okay. I get no horse. Yeah. So anyway, Jan gets it. Long story short, they want him to compete in like the real racing circuit, like Le Mans and all these big things, but you have to have a certain racing license to enter those races, right? They don't want anyone to show up that has money in a fast car and be like, I'm going to race Le Mans. Like, no, there's people's lives at stake. Obviously, you're driving. I didn't realize cars went 300 miles. Okay, I thought 200.
Was it like 377?
Yeah, and I seriously thought, and from playing the games, and my recollection was like 200 is super fast, and they go that fast. When they're going 300, that's mind-blowing, because they say you're going to have more G's than a rocket ship taking off, a spaceship. Right. And I just had no idea they were doing 300. That to me is insane.
Same.
That any human can go around corners, and I know they're not doing 300 around the corner, but going into it, they have to slow down and everything, like just for your body to be...
Okay, what are they doing, 250 around the corner?
200?
Yeah.
Especially in those low... Like, Le Mans uses, like, the F1, the short stock car... Not stock cars, that's Daytona, but formula cars, I guess.
Right, yeah.
And they're low to the ground, and those things go so fast and handle so crazy. But anyway, they need to get his license so he can do the main race, because the whole PR thing isn't like, we can have amateur race car drivers. It's like, no, we're going to have a guy compete in the big races. So he has to get his license. So he's entering all these little, and they're not small races. They're big, but they're like a minor league circuit. Yeah. Right, they're minor league, but it was still a very big deal. So he competes. His first race, goes decent, but he messes up because the jerk villain driver is there at every corner playing dirty, right? He hits him. He's about to get his fourth place, and he clips him, and he ends up finishing 17th. And they're like, oh, it's okay. It's your first time. But, race after race after race, they're jet setting around the world. They show you, I like how they show him go up in the rankings. They just show little snippets of the race. They show his placement. He's getting like 14th, and then 11th, and then didn't finish. He got in a wreck. No one was hurt, but he got in a wreck. Did not finish. He got 9th place. I don't know. I'm making these numbers up. It's just he's getting better and better and better.
Right.
But it comes down to the last race of the season, and they're not like, they don't have the money investment. They're not doing season 2 of Gran Turismo Academy. It's like, this is a one and done thing. Like, make it work. And so there's one race left, and if he does not finish 4th place, he cannot get the license. They're not going to keep doing this. Like, it's over for Jan and the stream and the program. So it comes down to the last race, and he does it. He does it. Right. I don't know. It happens. The bad guy almost gets him, but I think the bad guy makes a mistake and there's 2 bad guys, and he does the thing where like there's 3 in a row, and he puts the brakes on, and they get almost in a wreck, and then the bad guy flips his car over or something, right?
So somebody takes a corner too fast and crashes, and then debris cracks his windshield.
Okay, yeah, and then he has,
but he's able to finish the race.
But the bad guy actually like crashes and does some crazy stuff. And anyway, comes down to the wire. He ends up getting 4th place. So he gets his license, everyone's celebrating, and it's on to the big leagues. And they pull the girlfriend, not the girlfriend, he calls the girl he likes, and she's kind of been following him here and there. And she's like, I was wondering how many Facebook messages I'd have to like for you to call me. It's a cute relationship. It's a fun little thing.
We get a scene here straight out of Bad News Bears Go to Japan.
Remind me, because I was thinking something was similar, and I can't remember what it was.
There's the whole scene where Kelly Leak just in the middle of the movie goes on a date with the Japanese girl.
Yeah,
and there's just like 2 minutes montage of them on a date in Japan.
That stuff was a little cheesy. I wasn't so much into the date of it. I liked the relationship, but when they went out on the thing, I'm kind of like, oh, feels out of place. There's something weird.
This just felt like not necessary to the movie at all.
I agree. They were trying to give him a little humanization and have you care about the relationship, but it just, in the middle of all this stuff, it just felt kind of weird. But anyway, I think this is when he picks up
this is where he gets the
Sony MP3
Sony
player.
Not a Zune.
Not a Zune. Yeah. MP3 player. If they used a Zune, that would have been pretty funny. But anyway, so he picks up the thing. So they're at a race. It's not. Is it Le Mans? No, Le Mans, because that's the end of the movie.
Like
I'm
the
sorry.
Final.
They're at. I don't do. Does it say what the?
Well, I mean, Kevin, they're at the Nürburgring Nordschleife.
Oh my. How could I
shouldn't
forget?
have to tell you this.
I know. I'm so sorry.
That's what happens when Joe isn't here.
I played Gran Turismo. What a shame. I should know all these tracks. So they're at the thing, and
but he comes around the Flugplatz corner.
Oh my gosh, was it Flugplatz corner?
Yeah, I don't even understand why I have to tell you all this.
I know, it's ridiculous.
Yeah, but his car goes airborne.
So they show you Chekhov's wind forecast.
Yeah.
They show you it's a very windy day.
Yeah.
And so a freak accident occurs on Flugplatz corner, of course. Yeah. And the car picks up. He's going like 200 miles an hour. Basically, like the villain is even like, he's backing off because he kind of knows that, like, you shouldn't be going that fast. Like, he passes the guy up, and the guy's like, what the? And I mean, Jan just has red in his eyes. He wants to beat the bad guy that's been screwing him over the whole time, and he floors it, and he's going like 300 miles an hour. Well, there's a little hill, and then the wind picks up, and his car goes straight up vertically, and it just flies through the fence and everything, and there's people there, and they're all scattering.
Guess Gran Turismo isn't as good of a simulator as we thought.
I don't think we can blame Gran Turismo for that one. I think Jan was a little overzealous on this.
Well, but if you're overzealous, the game should penalize you.
No, it will. I mean, you can crash in that game.
Well,
for
then,
sure.
why didn't his car ever lift up on Flugplat's corner?
It probably did, but see, this is the human, and this goes into what everyone else was saying, was it's like, you can't account for everything in any simulation. And actually, it's kind of the moral of the story, which I want to get to, which is kind of weird in the very end. We're almost there. But it's like, no matter how good a simulation is, there is something to say about doing the real thing.
I liked when his car is airborne and about to kill a guy, there's a shot of him just trying to hit reset. I want to start this lap over.
There, like in video games, a lot of times you can do a rewind, and it gives you 10 seconds back, so you can redo the corners. You can, like, not in like a big championship mode, but especially in practice, there's a rewind
when you're still
and you can learn.
Yeah.
So anyway, big car wreck. I mean, it's just huge, and it's really emotional. Like again, because of like
he kills a guy. Like and we should say, like, I'm being flippant, but like in real life, he kills a dude.
So this is all
part is absolutely true, and I will say to his credit, Jan, as we will learn, is a stunt driver on the film. You know, he's involved with making the film.
He had to race that track.
He insisted that they put this as a plot point in the movie.
Wow.
Because he was like, that happened, and
can't.
like he's like, if to just pretend like it didn't is kind of sleazy.
You can't erase that person's life.
Yeah,
lost.
I mean,
like
but they didn't even say the person's name, but. So they kind of did, but maybe that family didn't want that.
It's hard to say, but to just sugarcoat it, and we talk about this in biopics all the time. Sanitized biopics are they're boring and they're not the whole story.
Yeah.
And so to their credit, it seems like, again, I didn't do as much research, but it seemed very true to
well, by research, I read one Wikipedia page.
Hey, that's 100% more research than I did. So I saw the clips that looked the same, and they looked very similar. So anyway, he has to deal with that, and it's a really good scene. It's a whole, David Harbour has started to really care for Jan over these races, and they've formed a friendship, almost like a fatherly bond type thing, and his performance is really good. Both actors do a really good job, but you feel the heartbreak when David Harbour's racing and trying to catch up to Jan and make sure he's okay, and he wakes up in the hospital, and Jan is like, what happened? Did anyone get hurt? And they're like, yeah, unfortunately, one of the bystanders. And, Orlando Bloom, he's not trying to be bad, but like he's saying, like, that's what this translates into. It's like the seats where he's at, the section is called, like, watch your ass lane.
Yeah.
But like the seating
in German means watch your ass.
That's not exactly.
Yeah.
So they were seating, that area is the caution zone. Like, there's splash zones and there's danger. Like, you can choose, like, if you go to sit in this area, watch out for foul balls, right?
Right.
Baseball. If you're in that seating area.
That's why tickets for Flugplat's corner were available on Groupon.
Right. So he kills the guy, and he's basically like, I'm done. I'm not doing this anymore. Like, and I get that. And the actor Archie gives a really good performance, and that struggle. And this is where the audience learns what happened. He takes once a couple days pass, and his parents are trying to call him and all this stuff, and it's a really dramatic. Like the mom is giving a really good performance, and the
Ginger
dad,
Spice.
No way.
Yeah.
Is it really?
Mm-hmm.
Oh, okay. I couldn't tell who that was.
Yeah.
What's her real name?
Jerry Hallowell something.
Yeah. Okay. She looked so familiar, but I couldn't. Okay. And the dad, Damon Hansu, is like just stone faced because he's just like doesn't even know what to think. Like they saw their kids in an accident. They're halfway around the world. Not halfway around the world. They're far away. They can't do anything. And I keep thinking America. Right. We're so like American centric.
Yeah.
Like, they're not in America. They're in the UK.
It must be far away. Yeah.
But anyway, a couple days pass or whatever, and we realize David Harbour's like, I'm not gonna. In his head, he's going through. I'm not gonna let what happened to me happen to this kid.
Right.
So he takes him back to the site of the accident, and he's like, I was racing and not in the same spot, but he's like, I killed someone.
Yeah.
And I hung it up. I couldn't do it again. And he's like, I could have been the best, but.
And he's like, now I regret it.
Yeah.
Like there are.
I never got to find out.
There are inherent risks in this sport, and and that's just and don't let that stop you. Or if it does stop you, make that decision knowing what you're giving up.
Knowing exactly, because
Yeah.
you'll never know. I could have been the best, and I'll never know. And you have the opportunity, and do you want to find out, basically?
Yeah.
And so he's like, take the keys. And so again, like that's nice. They had the day after the race and the accident, there was bring your car to the track.
Right.
So he gets in his. Now it was weird. He's driving a Porsche, and I'm like, that's really weird for a movie that's all about Nissans.
I know
that they let the David Harbour character drive this Porsche. Totally different car brand. I guess maybe they could sell a different ad, but
Yeah, I don't know.
they've really focused. Like, I know that's a Porsche,
Yeah.
and I'm calling it a Porsche. I'm not calling it a Porsche. So anyway, but he gives him the keys. He lets him drive, and Jan gets his confidence. You can see like he's going to finish this thing, and so they're like,
And
"Hey."
he kills another guy.
No, he does
It
not.
was awful.
So Orlando Bloom's like, "Hey guys, I'm glad you're back in it. I'm excited. That's great that you're back into it. Bad news is Nissan wants to pull out and wants nothing to do with this risk anymore."
Yeah.
And then
It turns out corporations don't like it when you kill people.
no, they don't.
That's their job.
So they basically say, like, we've got one last shot. Before you can compete in any other of these whatever races, they want to show a team of sim drivers racing Le Mans. Again, I don't know. Podium, like finishing ones, what do you call it? Placing on the podium.
Like, yeah.
First, second, or third place.
Right.
Gold medal, whatever. Medaling, I don't know what.
I think they keep saying, like,
Podium.
being on the podium.
Yeah, which means like the Olympics, first,
Right.
second, or third. So, which I would call medaling. I'm trying to think of like a term for racing.
Yeah.
But podiuming. Okay. So winning.
One of the winners.
One of the winners.
Yeah.
So anyway, they want a team to race. So they get Mr. First, second, and they get second and third,
Bring in not Dave Franco.
and
yeah.
other guy and friend.
Yeah, and the other guy.
Yeah, Spanish guy.
And I think this is true too. Because
they did this.
Yeah, because
Wow.
like I know that that other guy is now also a racer,
Wow.
and they brought him in because he had been racing professionally
Right.
at a lower level, so he had spent all this
Okay.
time. He was still racing, so like if
you know how good he was because he was the
right.
other guy.
And so, but he did end up racing professionally
cool.
because, like, if you think about it, if they were all just kids, well, they wouldn't have been driving for like a year at this point.
Yeah.
They would be really rusty.
Right.
So, like, the movie doesn't, I don't think, really explains this, but when I
don't.
looked it up, that he had been
That's
racing
awesome.
this whole time.
But
So, and I think he is also still a racer to this
cool.
day, I think.
Well, and it's really exciting. As far as movie stuff goes, I think the race scenes are all pretty exciting. I don't think they're like the best ever filmed racing scenes, but
They're competent.
Yeah, but they're fun. They're entertaining. They
Yeah.
had me, eating my popcorn.
This movie did not need to be over 2 hours long.
No,
It was like 2:06.
Was it? Okay.
And this movie should have been like a minute, like an hour 50.
Okay, yeah, I can
Yeah.
see that. But they're exciting, and this was a good movie moment, and it's cool that it really happened. They're like, we'll call up the other sim drivers, and this is it. Like the only way that they're ever going to continue with this program is to see if a team, like, is this a fluke, or the other sim drivers, can they actually race? Place at Le
We want
Mans.
to, yeah. We're really worried about the fact that you killed a guy. So here's
Let's
what
have you
we're
drive
thinking:
for 24
let's
hours
bring
straight.
in more amateur people and make them race for 24 hours nonstop,
Yeah.
and see if they kill anybody.
Yeah, it's a very strange logic, but
Yeah.
I guess it happened. I don't really understand the.
It appears to have happened, but I don't.
I
get
don't
the-
understand Nissan's logic.
Yeah.
We will only greenlight the sim racer program. We're
If
worried
we can
about
make
one,
it
but
even risky.
yeah, so it's strange.
We
but-
know the guy who was the best in our program killed a guy. What's the second best guy going to do? What? Let's give that a shot.
Yeah, those lines weren't directly from the movie. That's a commentary, just so the listeners are clear.
It was a deleted scene.
So they have him drive. It's an exciting moment. It's a good scene. Le Mans. I mean, this is a real race. 24-hour Le Mans. There's.
I know it's a big race because I've heard of it.
Have you heard of the video game?
Yes.
Okay. So there's 24-hour Le Mans Dreamcast game, which is really good. It's a really fun racing game. So
Can you actually play it for 24 hours?
that just seems crazy. I mean, I don't know. I
But I guess
never
the
have, but-
racers don't actually race for 24
Yeah.
hours because they take shifts.
Yeah, they probably have some way to skip or break it up or whatever. But anyway, this is a real race where the team of drivers, I think they said no one can drive for
More than 14 hours. Yeah.
Okay.
I don't know why I remember that because it's been like 2.5 weeks
Yeah.
since I've seen this movie, but for some reason that stuck in my head.
There you go. They take shifts, and there's not like a sequence they have to do it in. Like, I don't know, in some sports, it's like the first person goes, then you have to do whatever. It's
Right.
like they just take shifts, and as long as it doesn't total up over 14. So, they're doing their thing, the rain, the weather changes, all this stuff happens, day, night, all this stuff. And it comes down to the very last hour or two or whatever. The Spanish guy is, the third place simulator driver is getting really tired. He's kind of lost a couple places, and they're like, Jan, you want to bring this thing home? And he's like, yeah, I'm ready. Oh, and Jan goes through a crisis of faith. He's driving. He starts flashing back to killing someone, and he slows down and snaps out of it when there's a moment where David Harbour brings his not Zune and starts playing Kenny G. It's an in-joke where Jan pumps himself up by listening to classical music.
Kind of reaches his Zen state, which is also true.
Okay. And they said at the end of the movie, he listens before every race to Kenny G. And what's her name? And
Enya.
Enya, yeah. And so anyway, David Harbour can't snap him out of it. He plays it over the radio. Jan gets really mad and upset. And David Harbour's like, you mad? Good, let's win this thing. And so anyway, it changes shifts. The other guy's getting tired. And then the next day, he's like, Jan, bring this home. He's like, I'm ready. So he gets in the car, does his thing, and then he ends up finishing third.
Well, he wins by not using the racing lines.
Okay. This is the thing. If I had one complaint, this is my biggest complaint besides all the advertisements and all that other stuff. Okay, Gran Turismo is such an excellent driving simulator. The best. It's the best driving simulator. So you should not take its advice and drive on the red line, which means don't do that. That's how you win the races. Doesn't that seem like an exact opposite endorsement of the simulator?
Yeah.
I was shocked because playing these games, they show you what turns not to take.
I would thought they would have made a bigger deal because in the beginning of the movie, they show him not doing what the game recommends.
Yeah.
And he makes a comment about how, well, this is a way to beat a guy. He goes, but sometimes you crash and die and you just have to start over. And so I thought that they'd play on that it's like he was taking a risk doing it because obviously in a video game, if you crash and die, you start over.
I mean, this is Obi-Wan Kenobi and Luke Skywalker.
Right.
That's what this is.
Yeah.
It's the whole scene is him putting on his blast shield
right.
and just feeling it, and Obi-Wan saying, just feel it.
And it says he broke a lap record. I don't think he did. I looked up lap records and I could not find, and I'm sure this has been 20 years, it might have been broken again. I couldn't find anything that seemed to indicate he actually did it. Again, not a sports guy. Yeah. That was just me doing a quick Google. I could not find anything that seemed to indicate he had actually broken a lap record. It just seems weird
with all the accurate stuff that they would put that in if he didn't break some
Agreed,
kind of
especially because by saying that, you're also kind of stealing that honor from whoever actually did it.
So I would be interested to see if they
for
really
sure.
didn't.
I just don't know if I missed it or But
I just thought this was weird because, I mean, I get that it's a simulation and that's cool in a game to think outside the box and all that, but if Gran Turismo, as they've told us, is the best of the best, you can't go like, oh, don't listen to it, because it's like, well, the best would tell you, no, this is the best. There is no better than the best.
Yeah.
So I thought it was a very weird, conflicting message that Gran Turismo is so good, but follow the red line that it tells you not to take, and you'll actually win. But again, it's the whole, use the force.
But I will say there's always things like that in games where it's like, there's the way that you should always do it, but sometimes there's these little quirks of the game. But
I get it when it's not a world-class driving simulator.
But also, like, just because it's a quirk of the game doesn't mean it works in real life.
Right.
But remember, there was a guy just a few months ago that did something like that from a video game where it was, like, in the final lap, and he just, like, hit the outside wall and, like, gunned it and was, like, scraping along the wall.
But that ended up...
But he won... because they were like, and he was like, "Oh, I learned it playing a video game." He said the name of the video game might have been this.
That's
Hell,
right,
I don't know.
Yeah.
But and now they were like, "Should we get rid of this move?" Because it's kind of dangerous. He deliberately crashed his car
but it won
into a wall, and
he
then
used it as a guide. Okay.
To
So I don't know. It just felt a little weird. I'm not saying it ruins the whole thing, but in my head, it was making me think like, I'm surprised they put that in there to not follow the right.
Yeah, it did seem a little odd.
Yeah.
And he comes in third.
Yeah, so he hit the podium.
Which what they don't tell you is in his class.
Oh,
like he's not third overall.
Oh,
he's third in his class, and so
so he didn't win third place at Le Mans, overall.
He came in ninth.
Oh,
I looked that up.
Sneaky,
and
movie.
It was like third in his class. So they have all these different
different types of cars.
Yeah, I guess so.
Or
Yeah,
whatever. I know in Gran Turismo you play Class A, Class S, the supercar class. There's all the different classes of cars. So different cars compete, and then he won third of the whatever car.
Yeah.
Okay.
But yeah, he was.
I mean,
third in his
still
class.
an incredible achievement
For sure,
by a team of video game players.
Absolutely.
Sim drivers. But,
honestly, the fact that they only killed one guy is an achievement.
Wow.
I like not again.
It's horrible.
It's horrible that the guy died. I'm saying I'm surprised they didn't kill more people, because on paper this seems like a stupid idea.
The fact that the program did not go catastrophically wrong.
Right.
They didn't kill themselves in the drive. I mean,
Yeah.
I can't believe one of these sim drivers at Gran Turismo Academy didn't just crash into a wall and set on fire, right?
For real, like those cars are hard to control.
Oh my gosh.
Yeah, like
it's crazy.
Agreed.
So, I mean, it's a really neat moment. The family's all there. You've got the family, the mom, the dad, the girlfriend, the friend from the cafe. So they're all there cheering him on, and they're celebrating with him. And it's a big, nice movie moment. David Harbour's happy, and he's kind of gotten out of grump mode. He's become part of the family and their friends, and he's, warmed up to this whole idea. And they show all the Jan did this in real life. He's still racing. He was his own stunt double in the movie. They showed pictures of him, like they redid Damon Hansu and a little kid by a car.
Yeah.
And then they show the real picture of Jan and his dad by a car. And they recreated things very accurately.
They did.
They showed the real Jan and the actor next to each other on set. And it was just and the dad in his soccer jersey and everything. And I mean, I enjoyed this movie a lot. I didn't love it. It wasn't perfect, but I left it being thoroughly entertained. I was impressed by how well they followed the video game.
I was relatively indifferent on this movie.
Yeah.
Which I think is probably the best I could probably hope for.
I
don't really care about sports. I don't really care about video games. And I was just
that was okay.
It was fine.
Yeah.
I
mean, it kept my interest. I do think it's interesting for someone that doesn't play the games to have enjoyed it. I think that's a good sign that, whether you played the games or not, don't think this is like, oh, I have to play the games to understand it.
No,
it's a
not
very
at all.
accessible movie.
For sure.
And there are those things like the Easter eggs for the nerds, for the people that have played the games. All those things are in there, and I think it does a good enough job where you get it. Like, they show you him playing the game and it breaking into the simulation. Like, it's the language the film conveys.
Right.
Hey, this is a game mechanic.
Yeah.
And it was clever the way those camera angles, I'm telling you, the way they recreate them, you wouldn't know not playing the game, but like the way they pull out from the car and you can choose different angles and where the camera sat. I mean, it was a perfect recreation.
Oh, that's cool.
Which is cool that they put those little things in there.
Yeah, I mean, you need to if it's going to be based on the game.
For sure.
You need to have some connective tissue.
Yeah, but it was fun.
So, okay. Well, I guess that's it for this one. Let's go around the shortened table, and everyone can say where to find them.
This is Kevin. You can follow me on Twitter at KevinRBrackett. And you may have noticed last week we dropped the pilot episode of Circle of Wizards, which is myself and Matt F. Basler.
Well, that's not a circle.
Well,
I mean, 2 points is not a circle. That's a line.
No. There's a circle around. We're in the circle.
I mean, I'm not very good at math, but I remember that much from geometry.
No.
2 points is a line.
So Matt F. Basler and myself, we talk about video games. If you listen to the episode, you will understand the title and why it's called Circle of Wizards.
Line of Wizards.
But you can go subscribe to that now. The first episode you probably heard on the Real Spoilers feed, but there's a feed for Circle of Wizards. So it's on Apple. It's on all of them really, except for Google is being kind of weird. Maybe by the time you listen to this, it will be up. But I had to manually add the link to my Google
Google takes a while.
So
for some reason,
I think it will pop up. But on the Facebook post, you don't have to be a part of the group, but if you go to facebook.com/realspoilers, on the post, I have every Apple link to the podcast there, the RSS feed to put in your Google if you want to add it. So check it out, though. If you're into video games, I mean, I know we talked a lot about it coincidentally on this episode. Yeah. It's a good, tie-in to the episode.
This will be episode 2 of Line of Wizards.
Basically, you've entered the circle. So anyway, check it out. It's fun. I mean, we're talking about old games mainly, but there's going to be some new stuff sprinkled in. And if you're a fan of Matt, it's going to be a regular show with him on it. So
okay, awesome. And you can find me on Twitter at Roger Kubert or on Facebook at facebook.com/Tom O'Keefe. You can find the show online, facebook.com/Real Spoilers. While you're there, like the page, join the group, and of course, don't forget our Patreon. So that's it for this one. Thanks for tuning in, and until next time, Hunt's Gear Shifter breaks.
Get ready for a spoiler. Won't say it twice, 'cause we already